Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me. It's morning time where I am. Quite cold in Michigan today. It's actually been really cold, like wind chill in the negative cold. Like you could take a pan of boiling water outside and throw it and it turned to dust, right? It's cold. So I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for coming back. Today I'm going to talk about codependency and trauma bonding. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I prepared some slides. Let me get to the top here. I might have to pause the video because my little guy isn't up yet. And I anticipate him waking up soon. So if that happens, I'll just pause and come back to it. Okay, codependency, trauma bonding, how to recognize and heal. Yes, you can. You can heal. It is possible. I'm living proof. Codependency. A relationship where a person repeatedly neglects their self in pursuit of love, validation, acceptance, or approval through another person. Oftentimes, but not always, the other person is an addict or has some sort of self-destructive behavior. Roles that a codependent can commonly play are an enabler, caretaker, martyr, savior, rescuer, or fixer. Examples of common behavior: enabling, making it easier for someone to indulge in an addiction or addictive behavior or destructive behavior. For example, in a previous relationship, there were many times where I went to the store very late at night to purchase more alcohol for someone who was clearly intoxicated and did not need any more alcohol. And then I formed a resentment because here I was going to the store late at night for this person when I was the one that agreed to do it. It's not funny. I just laugh at the things that I did and the resentments I formed over my own choices. Caretaking, going out of your way or changing your plans completely to care for someone else, often at the expense of yourself in some way, via time, money, or energy. I was a huge caretaker. It made me feel valued and needed, and it was something that I felt I needed so much that I neglected myself always. And I dropped on, anytime anybody would ask me to do something, I dropped whatever it was that I was doing to go and do what they wanted me to do. And this wasn't just with one person, this was with many people, many relationships in my life. Rescuing. I've done this as well, and I'll share the story. Driving around in the middle of the night, trying to find an intoxicated person who repeatedly gets stranded and lost. I did this many times. For my sister, she would get so intoxicated that she would not know where she was. She would end up stranded, sometimes on the side of the road. And there were quite a few times where I was driving around trying to find her based on information of her location that she knew, 2 hours prior or whatever. It was highly disruptive of my life. I had really small children at the time, and here I was driving around in the middle of the night, and I had to get up early, to take care of my kids. Oh, gotta pause. Hold on, buddy. Hold on, sweetie. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. Okay, I'm back. Mommy duties come first, right? Okay. Share my screen again. All right, so we went through all of those. Signs and characteristics of codependency. Big trust issues with yourself and with others, big trust issues. And also problems with confrontation and decision-making. Confrontation was, I hated it. I would do absolutely anything and everything to avoid any kind of confrontation. It was so incredibly uncomfortable for me to just even stand up for myself. I would just allow things to happen and just go hide, It was very a very difficult thing for me to overcome. 2, a strong desire to fix or save people and to feel needed or valued. That was a big one for me to feel. It made me feel needed and valued when I would try to fix or save people. Like, I have the answer, let me help you. There's a difference between wanting to help someone, just to help someone, and then help someone with, I don't want to say ulterior motive, but that's the only word that's coming to mind. Like, I needed to feel needed and valued, and so that's why I was doing those things. Now I want to help people just because, the changes in my life have been so miraculous that I want that for other people who may be enslaved in these psychological prisons. 3, do you hear my animals out there? The cats are so rambunctious in the morning. It's hilarious. They just banged into my door. Okay, 3, always putting others' needs above your own. I was always doing that. I put myself last. And I thought that, I was being a good person by doing that. But serving others and neglecting yourself, it's a very self-degrading thing to do. It really is. And you really can't truly love others until you learn how to love yourself. Oh my heavens. No, you guys can't come in here. Go play out there. They're scratching at the door. Oh my gosh. Okay. 4, doing anything it takes to keep, fix, or save a relationship, even if it's the most toxic, unhealthy kind of relationship. You'll do anything to fix or save it because of the next reason. There's just a strong fear of losing someone or of being abandoned. And for me, that fear was solidified when I was a teenager, when my dad left. My mom and my dad split up when I was about 14 or 15. And instead of my dad just leaving the home, he disappeared for about 6 years. No one heard from him, no letters, no phone calls. Nobody even knew where he was. It was quite a traumatic experience. Trauma bonding, unhealthy hormonal attachment. Yes, hormonal, and I'll explain in just a second. Unhealthy hormonal attachment created by repeated cycles of trauma, mistreatment, or abuse, followed by a reconciliation period or positive reinforcement of some kind. So there is a cycle with trauma bonding, and it starts with a traumatic situation or a period of time where there is mistreatment or abuse. During that time, the sympathetic nervous system is activated. The fight, flight, freeze, or fawn part of your nervous system, and adrenaline and cortisol are released into your body. Then after the traumatic period or the neglect or abuse or mistreatment, there is reconciliation or positive reinforcement, and sometimes that's called love bombing. And what the person will do is will shower you with affection and praise or gifts maybe, or time spent, or trying to make up for what they did. But it's like a makeup on steroids. And what that does to your brain is, during that love bombing period, your brain releases all kinds of neuropeptides, these neurotransmitters and hormones called norepinephrine, serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. And so your body and your brain are just flooded with these feel-good, chemicals. And it is very much like a high. It really is like a high. And through this cycle of your sympathetic nervous system being activated, the adrenaline and cortisol, and then followed by all of these feel-good hormones, your body changes, physiologically changes and rewires your nervous system and your brain to strengthen this bond. And it's the worst form of attachment because oftentimes it's an unrecognized addiction. Examples. Probably the most severe example of a trauma bond would be Stockholm syndrome. Hostages will form a psychological and emotional bond with their captor and become sympathetic towards them. More commonly, it starts in childhood with a parent or a caregiver or a grandparent or a teacher, you know, any important person in a child's life. And as a survival mechanism, the child's brain makes an association between the trauma and love. And then in an adult relationship, it often stems from childhood trauma, but you know, it can happen at any time, really, but it often stems from childhood trauma. And the brain and nervous system are primed or wired for this type of relationship. Like you're physically wired for that kind of relationship. And so that's the people that you attract. You know how they say that you marry your unhealthy parent? You know, whatever unhealthy parent you have that has issues, you end up, you know, marrying that type of person as an adult. This is why. It's an actual physiological wiring, and then that's what you attract as you grow up. Signs and characteristics of trauma bonds. You know someone's not good for you, but you continue the relationship and allow the behavior. You walk on eggshells. You worry about doing or saying something to anger or upset them. You know, and this really, really inhibits your voice. You know, when you basically gag yourself from speaking up or from saying something that you know you should, you're basically just choking yourself. And the more you do it, the harder it becomes to actually speak up. Also, defending, protecting, downplaying, or making excuses for their negative behaviors. Intense fear of ending the relationship or even addressing the issue. Sometimes the thought of addressing the issue, like I knew there was issues, you know, with my past relationships, I knew there were issues, but just the thought of doing something about it was incredibly scary. It was such a mountain of fear. Oftentimes you feel invisible, have a loss of self-worth, or feel as though you are indebted to or you owe the person something. You always consider their happiness and well-being above yours. Okay, what a trauma bond may look like. I fiddled around with the 3D paint on my PC and came up with this picture. Now, I can't take credit for this idea. I tried to find the picture that I saw on Instagram a month or so ago, but I don't remember which person I follow that posted it. So I just tried to recreate here. But this, you know, a picture says 1,000 words. And I tell you what, this right here is trauma bonding, most definitely. You've got the original picture had two people embracing, you know, it was really pretty. It was like a whole painting and everything, had two people embracing. And the one person had a bow and a quiver of arrows, and the other person had arrows stuck in their back, and they're just, you know, so much in love. So yes, and this can be the other way around. It could be in a relationship, it could be the woman that has the quiver of arrows and the man with the arrows in his back, or it could be any relationship. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship or with a significant other. It can be with a parent or a sibling or a coworker or a boss. You know, it can be between two men, two women, parent and child. It can also be between a person and a corrupt authority figure or system. Think about that. You know, we live in interesting times. It's January 12th, 2022. You know, I'm probably not going to date many of my videos because I think the information that I want to share is timeless, but just for this video anyway. So yeah, you can definitely have a trauma bond between a person and a corrupt authority figure or system, you know, an employer, a government agency, a school or intuition, a church even. You know, we really got to use our discernment and our intuitions. You know, God gave us intuition for a reason, and use it. Okay, what are the differences? Both codependency and trauma bonding have psychological components. However, trauma bonds have a physiological component, like I was talking about, where the brain and the nervous system become wired, similar to addiction, which further solidifies the bond. People who are trauma bonded can develop conditions like CPTSD, complex PTSD, which is a subset of post-traumatic stress disorder, where a person is in a situation of repeated, unpredictable occurrences of trauma. People with a trauma bond can have increased risk of substance abuse or addictive behaviors to escape or soothe the effects of the trauma. How to recognize if you are in a traumatic relationship. Okay, so this was really good for me because it was very difficult for me to recognize in my own situations when I was in them. So when I started to learn how to heal, one of the things that I found was they suggest to ask yourself, if someone you know, someone you really care about, is in a relationship just like yours, would you be concerned for them? And really, really be honest with yourself. You know, really be honest with yourself. I know it can be scary. It can be so scary thinking about changing something so monumentous, especially when there is a psychological and a physical attachment to this person and their behaviors. So yeah, and why it's easier to recognize in someone else is with the repeated activation of your fight-flight part of your nervous system, it shuts down the front part of your brain that's responsible for critical thinking and making good judgment, good decisions, those kinds of things. It shuts that part down. It inhibits it. So our cognitive function is impaired. Additional terminology. Okay, I believe these are worth talking about, most definitely. I see a lot of this going on right now with humanity as a whole. It's quite sad, actually. Thank you, God, that I'm aware. The things that I've been through in my life have been difficult, but I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for them. I've learned so much and I've grown so much, and it's just, I'm really glad to be where I am today. And I hope that I can help. I hope that I can help others. I hope that you're getting, good insight out of this stuff. Okay, gaslighting. Psychological manipulation that causes a person to question their reality, memories, perception, or sanity. Narcissists do this a lot. It's a very subtle manipulation, and they're so good at it, so crafty with words and twisting things around. And confusion is a huge tool that narcissists use. And sometimes I think that they do it intuitively and intentionally, and sometimes I think that they don't even know that's what they're doing. Cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable mental state resulting from conflicting knowledge. And here's a great example. I've seen this a lot as well today. The medical establishment says that a new drug is safe and effective. You know that it hasn't been tested properly or given enough time to prove its safety. However, you take the drug anyway because you trust your doctor. Most of us trust our doctors. I was grateful to have an eye-opening experience where I realized that my doctor did not really have my best interest at hand. And, she just wasn't even really trained in nutrition. Most conventional medical doctors are trained to prescribe medications. A lot of their schooling doesn't even touch nutrition and how nutrition plays a role in your health. So yeah, most of us trust our doctors. Or you were coerced by fear. Sometimes we do things out of fear, so I really encourage you, when you're making the decision about something, to honestly ask yourself, am I doing this because I'm afraid of something, or I'm afraid of something that will happen if I don't do this? Fear is not a good thing to base decisions on. And it's just not. So this kind of stuff, if you're agreeing to do something out of fear or because you blindly trust someone, this can cause anxiety and other mental conflict because you're denying your intuition. You know something may not be good for you, but you do it anyway because other people are doing it, or because you're afraid, or because someone you trust said that you should. Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. You're smarter than you think, and you're braver than you believe. I think Winnie the Pooh said that. You're braver than you believe, stronger than you think, and I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Mark Twain said, it's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled. So true. Steps to heal. All right, my favorite part. Okay, educate yourself. Education is so important, guys. Educate yourself. You don't need to go to school or have a degree in medicine or psychology to be able to help yourself heal. Read books, read articles, watch videos, gather information that's relevant to your situation. One of my favorite authors on codependency is Melody Beattie. The first book of hers that I read was Codependent No More. And there were lots of exercises in that book that were very helpful. I highly recommend. And also, guys, these steps are not in any particular order. I kind of did a lot of them together. So these two books were life-changing. And I'm still going through How We Love by Milan and Yerkovich with my husband currently right now. And it has been so incredibly eye-opening. So I highly recommend, in fact, I would go so far as to require that you read these two books. The 5 Love Languages by Chapman. That book is a little bit more well-known, I think, actually a lot more well-known than How We Love, but I believe they're both equally important. The 5 Love Languages teaches about what the different love languages are, and you can identify what your love language is, and what your spouse's love language is, what your children's love language is. Like it can change how you parent. It can change how you relate to your spouse, how you relate to yourself. It is so life-changing to find out what your love language is. And then, if your partner or you doesn't feel loved in the relationship, you can sit down and say, I feel loved when you, do something nice for me. That would be acts of service. Or I feel loved when you tell me that I'm beautiful or that I'm smart. That would be words of affirmation. And when we communicate with our partners and with our children, and we tell them, how it is that we feel loved. And it may take more than one conversation, because people need multiple exposures for something to sink in. So yeah, the 5, learn what your love language is, and then learn what your love style is. In the book How We Love, they talk about love styles, and it all stems from childhood and what we learned by watching our parents. And it gives different love styles and examples of those styles, and why it is that people do what they do. It's been extremely eye-opening for both my husband and I. One of the questions that they ask in the book in the very beginning is, Can you remember a time when you were properly comforted? When you were really upset and you had all kind of feelings? Were those feelings validated? Were you allowed to express them? Were you told that it's going to be okay? Were you hugged? Were you, did you have your feelings validated? And it was extremely difficult to remember a time in my childhood when I was properly comforted. I got lots of hugs and kisses and I love yous from my parents, of course. But as far as teaching us how to self-soothe or comfort ourselves, we couldn't remember. My husband too. We couldn't remember. And it's really sad. Actually, they surveyed people in the book, and of the people surveyed, 75% of the people could not remember a time when they were properly comforted. So here we have all these adults growing up in these homes who weren't properly comforted. They don't know how to self-soothe. No wonder we have such a huge problem with addiction. Addictions of all kinds is because we just don't know how to love ourselves. We don't know how to love other people. Anyway, so these two books, I require them, okay? Life-changing. The next thing, heal your inner child. Heal your inner child. There are so many free meditations and information out there on how to heal your inner child. And I even did like a little fun thing after I was done with the process of healing my inner child. And as you're learning your love languages and as you're learning your love style and why it is that you do what you do and why you need what you need, you can reparent yourself. Like, think of your inner child like your actual child and reparent yourself, okay, to the best of your ability. It's going to take time to grow, but to the best of your ability, love your inner child unconditionally. And one of the best ways to start doing this is just to observe your behavior without judgment or attachment. And what I did was, when I got done with the process of healing my inner child, I took her shopping and I let her buy anything she wanted. And it was like, I really did kind of like separate my inner child from myself and just like scoop her up and hold her and love her and take care of her. And it is life-changing. And it's really fun learning about yourself, getting to know yourself. Okay, so next, learn what healthy boundaries are and how to set healthy boundaries. I had no boundaries. I didn't even know what a boundary was. So I had to learn what a healthy boundary was before I could set any, obviously. And then after you learn what healthy boundaries are and you set some or one, just start with one if that's easier to do, enforce it. Enforce your boundaries. If you don't enforce your boundaries, you're basically telling people that you don't mean what you say and that they can walk all over you. And believe me, people will test those boundaries. They will test them. So enforce them, like guard those boundaries like you're a sentinel, okay? You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. So don't allow people to cross your boundaries. Just don't. Practice it. If you find that you are, next time, enforce it. The more times you enforce it, the more it will tell people, hey, I'm serious about this. Please respect me. If you don't respect yourself, other people are not going to respect you. Steps to heal continued. Work through resentments and triggers. Guys, this is huge. Huge. I think I'm going to do an entire separate video on how to work through resentments and triggers. It's extremely empowering. It is so empowering. Resentment is such a prison. And oftentimes we, when we're triggered, we focus on what we were triggered by instead of going to the root wound or the root cause of that trigger. It's a protective mechanism. Triggers are a protective mechanism, like, hey, something happened to me and this is bringing it up. But it's an opportunity, okay? Because you don't need that root wound anymore to protect yourself. So you can go to the root wound when you're triggered. It is so hard, you guys. Oh my gosh. It is so hard not to engage in a trigger. However, If you can take the wheel, just take the wheel, excuse yourself, go in another room, go for a drive, whatever, and do the steps. Yeah, you know, I've decided I'm going to make a whole nother video on it because it is so important. It is so important. And it was really, really life-changing, really freeing and empowering working through resentments and triggers. Practice detachment. And I say practice detachment because detachment does not come easy for someone with attachment issues, especially an issue as strong as trauma bonding. So you need to practice it. And the first thing you need to do is learn how to recognize it in yourself. So you really need to take responsibility for yourself. Stop looking outside of yourself for someone else to tell you what to do and how to heal. Look within, take responsibility for yourself and your growth, and allow the other person to do the same. Let them take responsibility for themselves and their growth. And they might not want to, and that's okay. We live on a free will planet. Everybody can do as they please. So just realize that if they don't want to work on themselves, you might have to leave the relationship or end the relationship in order for you to completely heal. And if you're not there yet, you know, whatever, it's okay. You will get to the point eventually where you want to change. And, you know, at that point, you can go from there. Growth and change are possible within the relationship. Most definitely. You know, my husband and I are working through a lot of things right now, and but it takes both of us to be willing to do that. It really does take two. It takes two to tango. Okay, next thing, build a support network. Build a support network. This is so important. We cannot heal on our own. We need other people. We need each other. We just do. I highly recommend joining a support group or a recovery group in person or online. There are so many recovery groups out there. You could also consider seeing a therapist or counselor. However, use your discernment. I've had some pretty effed up counselors. Actually, really just one that pops out in my mind. And I'm glad that I didn't let this man ruin my view of counseling. I was talking about how I was raped by my first boyfriend, okay? And somehow that led him to suggest me watching porn. I'm like, what? You're recommending I watch porn as part of a way to heal from my rape trauma? Anyway, I didn't go back to that guy. So use your discernment, guys. Not all counselors are good counselors. Steps to heal continued. Self-care, and self-care. Did I mention self-care? So important, so important. I know this sounds cliche, guys, but this stuff works. It works, and you don't have to do it for a long period of time every day. Like, that was a huge block for me. I thought, you know, in order to get anything out of meditation, I had to do it for 30 minutes to an hour. You know, I had to read 5 pages of affirmations. I had to, you know, journal for an hour. You know, I just made mountains out of molehills. And then I used that as an excuse not to do anything at all. But when you start out small and you bite off doable chunks, it is so life-changing. It's so life-changing. I started with 3 minutes of meditation. You don't need to, and then I built upon that. You don't need to start out with a full-blown routine. Okay, so regular meditation, especially upon waking and before sleep, activates the part of your nervous system responsible for rest, digest, and repair. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And when we activate that part of our nervous system, we are able to put our bodies in a state where we are healing. This part of your nervous system in this state where you're able to heal. So incredibly important, especially for someone whose nervous system has been activated through fight, flight, freeze, or fawn repeatedly over years, sometimes decades. You really, really need your parasympathetic nervous system to heal. And meditation, also Reiki. Reiki puts your body in, Reiki activates your parasympathetic nervous system. I highly recommend Reiki. Reiki changed my life. Absolutely miraculous. Affirmations. Write down or look up short, powerful affirmations and say them every day 3 times. 3 times. Why 3 times? Because 3 is a complete cycle. It adds power to whatever it is that you say. And a lot of times I will say the 3rd time in a whisper, because you're basically just telling yourself that, you know, I have the power. It's powerful. I have the power to change my life. I have the power to heal myself. So when you say things 3 times, it adds power to that. And when you say the last one in a whisper, it's like you're telling yourself, like, it's like a secret, but you know, it's not. Try it. It really does work. It really does work. The number 3 is so incredibly powerful. Journaling. Regular journaling can help you see things more clearly and decide what action you can take, if there's any action you can take. And a particular type of journaling called automatic writing can be very, very eye-opening. Automatic writing is basically where you, I suggest doing it after you do your meditation. And you basically just put yourself in a meditative state and you just start writing. And whatever comes through your pen comes through your pen. And wow, guys, some of the stuff that I've written down has been mind-blowing. I do have an issue with journaling though. I'll share an experience with you. Years ago, about 10, 12 years ago, I went to a conference and I was away from home for a few days. And when I came back, the person I was with went through my journals and read everything and took so many things out of context and basically attacked me when I got home. I felt so violated, so betrayed. It was such a traumatic experience. And I had such a block with writing anything after that. So what I've been doing lately, when I journal, if it's something that I don't want anyone else to see, I'll burn it. I'll burn it. That in and of itself is an amazing release as well. Exercise. And guys, you don't need to do this for a long time. Set a timer. Your timer can be your best friend. Set a timer for 5 minutes, meditate. Set a timer for 3 minutes, say a few affirmations. Set a timer for 5 minutes, you know, journal. Like you can do all of this stuff in a half an hour. You really can. Even yoga. Like I do like 10 minutes of yoga in the morning. 10 minutes. What's 10 minutes? It's nothing. You can do anything for 10 minutes, okay? Especially if it's going to change your life for the better. Absolutely. Do it. Okay, so movement is incredibly beneficial for healing trauma. Incredibly beneficial. There are certain yoga poses that work on the vagus nerve, and I'm probably going to do a whole nother video on yoga and trauma recovery and the vagus nerve. It's mind-blowing. It's so awesome. And then walking, especially outside in nature. In fact, if it's nice where you are, I suggest meditating outside, like go sit next to a tree. Then you get your outside time and your meditation done. So tips for building a self-care routine. Be gentle and kind, loving and tolerant with yourself. Healing can take months and even years. So it's not a race. Be gentle, okay? Realize and remind yourself that healing is not linear. It doesn't happen like in a neat little succession. There's often a lot of messy back and forth, up and down, setbacks and breakthroughs. And just, again, be gentle and loving and tolerant. Build new habits slowly. Like I was saying earlier, start with one thing for like 5 minutes of meditation before you start your day. And make it a point too. If you like to check your email or scroll social media or whatever it is that you like to do in your morning when you're before you start getting ready, before you do that, don't deny yourself that. Okay, don't deny yourself that at first, but before you do that, set a timer for 5 minutes and just breathe and observe your thoughts, or go find a guided meditation on YouTube. There's thousands, or you can download an app. I downloaded Headspace, and you can pay for it and have like all the bells and whistles and stuff, but you don't have to. There's a free version, and there are 10 guided meditations, and you can choose a man's voice or a woman's voice. I really like the accent of the man's voice, so I chose him. But there are 10 guided meditations in the free part, and you can do them over and over and over and over. So you don't have to pay for anything. And it's either 3, 5, or 10 minutes. So that was perfect for starting. And he guides you through. He tells you what to do. And there's even like short little 30 to 60-second videos explaining what meditation is and how to approach it. Approach it with curiosity and awe, like you're like childlike. Don't approach it with dread, like, oh God, I gotta meditate. Oh. Don't do that to yourself, okay? Approach it with curiosity. So once that becomes automatic, okay, add something else, like a couple affirmations. So you do your 5 minutes of meditation and then add a few affirmations. And once that becomes automatic, then add one more thing, okay? And give yourself like a week. Like, don't make these really unrealistic goals of I'm gonna meditate every day for 30 days. Don't do that. Take it slow, little teeny bite-sized chunks, okay? It's called habit stacking. It's awesome. I used to write down these, when I wanted to make a change, I used to write down an entire full-blown routine and expect myself to be able to do all of it from day one. And then I'd be ready there with the baseball bat to beat myself up when I made a mistake. So unrealistic, so unrealistic. Habit stack, it's flipping awesome, guys. Start slow. Okay, beware of shooting on yourself. I know we all do this. We all do this. I should be doing this or that. I should be farther along. Oh, I should be healed by now. I should be, have a better routine. I should be doing more. Stop shooting on yourself. It is so detrimental. Do not overcommit. Like I was just saying, set small, actionable, easily attainable goals. You can build trust in yourself by committing to something for a few days or a week instead of 30 days. When you overcommit, see, this is the issue. When you overcommit yourself or you make too unrealistic of a goal to reach and you don't follow through, you're basically telling yourself that you can't trust yourself. You got to be able to trust yourself. You are the only person guaranteed to be with you for the rest of your life. You really should trust yourself, okay? So only commit to what you can easily do at first. Leave perfection out. Allow yourself to make mistakes. If you mess up or fall out of routine, start over. Just start over or pick up where you left off. Every little bit counts. What you did before is not lost. It's not undone. Okay, don't give up. You're so worth it. You're so worth it. All right, some final things worth mentioning. There's a difference between trauma caused by a person with a personality disorder, such as a psychopath, a sociopath, or a narcissist. So there's a difference between people with a personality disorder, mental illness, or addiction. okay? And someone who is projecting due to unhealed trauma. Only you know what your situation is. Excuse me, I didn't turn off my phone. There we go. Only you know your situation. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, and really sit down and think about what's going on. If you're at all concerned about your safety, preparing a safety plan or an exit plan is important. Okay, it just is, and it can be super simple. Like just filling a duffel bag or a backpack or a box with like copies of important papers and essential things like an extra change of clothes, medications or extra keys, and then a safe place to go that's worked out ahead of time. Sometimes you don't know how bad a situation is until you try to change or leave, and it can get messy. So again, be honest with yourself, ask yourself these hard questions, and really once you get your meditation routine down, meditate on it. Alternative healing methods like massage, Reiki, EFT tapping, and other energy medicine techniques were extremely helpful during my healing process, and they still are. I practice self-Reiki every day. The tapping I don't really do every day, but Reiki is a big part of my life. If you're able to book a treatment session, awesome, do it. If circumstances prevent you from seeking treatment in person, there are many free videos you can learn from. You can learn how to do tapping on YouTube or online. There's so much information about that. Also, Reiki treatments can be given at a distance. You don't need to be in person for that. Energy is quantum. Okay, it does not obey time and space. It's quantum, and it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. If you don't know about it and you're curious about it, look it up. It's fantastic. So that's the end of my slides. I really hope that this was helpful to you in some way. Please like, share. You're welcome to screenshot or write anything down of this information. And yeah, create a wonderful day, my friends. Bye-bye.